This is part C of the 2017 AB free response question number 4. For T less than 10, an alternate model for the internal temperature of the potato at T minutes is given by the function G that satisfies the differential equation that we see here. Before we continue, this doesn't ring a bell to me as being something that we can just shortcut and figure out what G is automatically. It's going to require separation of variables for us. G is measured in degrees Celsius. We have this initial condition. That's always super important. This is obviously also super important. Find an expression for G of T. So that's one thing that we're supposed to do. Based on this model, what's the internal temperature when T is 3? So there's two parts to this that we're supposed to do. In order to figure out what G of T is, we're going to have to separate these variables, which is a ton of work, but I don't see any other way that we can do it. Going to multiply both sides by dt. Now I need to get this g over here with this g, so the g's are on the same side. So I'm going to divide both sides by this. I'm going to leave the negative here. If I took the negative over here with me, it would be fine. I'm not going to. So this is 1 over g minus 27 to the 2/3 dg equals negative dt. Some folks don't like to have this negative dt, or rather have a 1 there. If that's you, then you can do that. I'm going to rewrite this so that it's not a fraction. I'm going to write it to the negative 2/3. And then I'm going to integrate both sides. Now, something that I haven't mentioned before, because once again, I thought we had to do all this work. There's some things that we can cut out. Let's do the right side first. If we integrate this, we're going to get negative t plus the arbitrary constant. On the left, this requires a u substitution, substituting u for the inside. However, a thing that we can skip on this that I just learned, if u substitution needs to be used, and it does here, but the derivative of your u is 1, you are not required to show the work for the u substitution. So let me show you what I mean. If we set u equal to g minus 27, the derivative of u with respect to g would be 1, and then du equals dg. When this happens, the du is equal to dg. In other words, the derivative of what u is equal to ends up being 1. It means you don't have to show this work, because the end result is going to be the same whether you did that u substitution or not. So if we just treat this like the power rule, if we add 1 to the exponent, we're going to get a third. Multiply, sorry, that's an exponent. And then if we multiply by the reciprocal of that to the front, and then we can always just check to make sure we did that right. 1/3 times 3 is 1. Subtract 1 from the exponent, it's a negative 2/3. This would be the chain rule if we're going to take the derivative. Derivative of the inside is 1. That's why we didn't have to do anything. We could just, we didn't have to do this u substitution, which I actually didn't do for this. That makes you uncomfortable, do the full u substitution. If this derivative is not 1, you do have to use the u substitution. All right, so then from here, we should probably figure out what C is. We got this ordered pair G of 0 equals 91. So if I substitute and put 91 in for G and 0 in for T, I'm going to get 3 times the cubed root of 64 equals C. The cubed root of 64, what number times itself 3 times is 64? That's 4. So C is 12. So that means that I can put a 12 in right here and get 3 times the difference of G and 27 to the 1/3 equals negative T plus 12. If I were to divide both sides by 3, and then if I were to cube both sides, and then add 27 to both sides, I would get G equals negative T over 3 plus 4 cubed plus 27. Now, one part of the instructions were find an expression for G of T. So I'll just kind of box that in. And maybe to make this a little bit better, I'll write G of T. I don't think it would matter though. And then the second part is, what is the internal temperature of the potato at time t equals 3? So I got to put a 3 in here. Now, it's been said a billion times. When you're trying to find this number for the temperature, as soon as you put the numbers in so that what you're left with you could put into a calculator, you can stop. This is an appropriate answer on the AP test. It's encouraged, if you have time, to simplify this just to see if your answer is reasonable. Negative 1 over 3 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 4 is 3. 3 cubed is 27. 27 and 27 is 54. I think the units for this were Celsius. It doesn't ask us to give proper units, so you don't have to. The initial temperature is 91 degrees. It seemed reasonable that 3 minutes later it could be 54 degrees Celsius. Sure. So that concludes that problem. Hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, if you got questions, you want to see more problems like this, let me know.